A lot's happened since yesterday!
Yeah, it's good to be here. I was like, wanted to do your show, and first of all, congratulations on the show.
Thank you so much.
Right?
Thank you.
When did you start? When did you guys start this?
Well, we haven't released it yet officially. So we're doing a bunch of pre-recordings and we're just building it slowly. But what we're going to do is we're going to put out a bunch of shows all at the same time. And then we're going to be steady because we feel that that's what the industry wants. They want a regular flow of content. So yeah, you know the business, Amber. So that's what you got to do, right? You know?
Yeah, and I've been in it a long time, and I'm glad to see you guys out here doing this now. I think you should have been out here a long time ago, and we're hometown kids, right?
Yep.
Right.
Facts.
Yeah, I just got back from Los Angeles. Lots been going on. Like you guys said, there's been a lot going on since yesterday.
Absolutely.
There's a lot going on this year. The world is just in this place.
It's insane, right?
It's just, it feels like we're in the barrel,
Facts.
and you just got to be able to tumble and roll right now and try to keep the things that are important to us, that mean something to us kind of close, because you can lose sight of that really fast. I just got back from LA. I went down to Los Angeles. I don't know if you guys know about this, but I don't know if you guys were affected, but you probably were. The California law that passed last year, that was the AB5 law, where they took away gig workers' rights to be independent contractors.
Oh, I heard about this.
So it looked like they were just going to hit the Uber and Lyft drivers, and it wound up being a broad spectrum law that encompassed all of us: gig workers, actors, comedians, music people, writers, journalists, all kinds of people. And I was one of them. Being a radio show host, an actress, and, I've got all my stuff going.
Right.
They took away my right to be an independent contractor. So I came up to Vegas and I relocated immediately, speaking of tumble and roll. And I started a show, we were coming up to work on a live show up here anyway. So I hit Vegas, and about 10 days later, the whole world locked down.
Yeah.
And it just was such a huge impact and shock, and it's just affected everybody I know. Well, I'm an officer on the Performers Actors Union in the adult industry, but we were part of the table that sat in with Lorena Gonzalez's office, the writer of the law. And we were able to work with her to rewrite the exemption that just passed. And it went into effect October the 4th, and it encompasses performance artists. So you guys would be a part of this.
Nice.
So you need to really check it out, because we won back our right to be independent contractors. And what that meant was, if a club like the Whiskey hired you to play, they were not allowed to hire you as an independent artist. They had to bring you in as an employer relationship. So all these places were like, we can't do business anymore. And all these people were out of work, weren't able to go. Forget about COVID, first this and now COVID.
Right.
So October 4th, the exemption went into effect. You should really take a look at that, because you really want to be armed with the information on it, because it changes everything.
What's the name? What's the exemption again?
It's called the AB2257 Exemption, which is the exemption for the AB5 law that passed in California last year in January. It went into effect January 1st, 2020. Now, not everybody fell into this exemption, but performance artists, luckily, were a part of it because we were able to, sit at the table with this and get it passed. So it's really important for us to know about this because it basically turned our whole industry upside down. So many of us, especially in California, is built on gig workers.
Yeah.
And people who have, we're gig workers. That's what we do. We get a gig, we do the gig, however many gigs we get is how we survive. And even people who have regular jobs, while we're pursuing our gigs, it affected all of us. So
well, let me ask you something because what you brought up right now is something that I think a lot of people in the entertainment industry are curious about. You've been in the industry for a while now, so and I want to pick your brain about it. How it was back in the day versus how it is right now. What's your thoughts on that? How much has it changed? What does an entertainer have to do to make money nowadays? Because I know that there's no way. It's kind of like I think the entertainment industry, all of it kind of comes together very similarly when it comes to that topic. How do you make money? Because people are streaming stuff for free on all levels.
Well, it's certainly, we could speak about it in eras, actually. Let's start with back in the 80s in Orange County when I was coming up as an artist. I was a model. I was a model in Orange County. I was a bikini model. I did catalog modeling, all of that. It used to be very popular to do like hot body contests and bikini modeling and all of that. And, it's very similar. Models, actors, and music artists, we have a similar path, we also face the kind of similar obstacles along the way. And back then it was more like an open highway for us. You were all about focusing on, your talent. You know what I mean? It was like getting your music or your artistic, work out on the table and then selling it like that, getting the attention of the public. And as time has gone on, it's become harder and harder because back then we didn't have to worry about people taking our content and putting it out there for free. That kind of came with the era of the internet.
Right.
The internet came in, all the internet pirates, and they do it to everybody. That was one of the reasons why I started my own radio show, Rock and Sexy Uncensored, because what happened was piracy. It was all about piracy and coming up with a solution for that. First of all, they took movies and they started recording them when somebody would release a movie, and they would put it out and bootleg it for free. They used to sell like CDs, you could buy bootleg CDs of your favorite movies. And that's kind of what started it. But then they attacked the music industry. And once they started doing it to like the really big bands like Guns N' Roses and people like that, where they were just bootlegging all your stuff and putting it out there for free, you had really rich, music artists that all of a sudden the piracy was just taking them down. Well, the last frontier is the adult industry.
Right.
People will spend money on the adult industry to the nth degree. And when they started pirating all the adult work and just throwing it out on the internet for free, that just tanked, the economy. So, a lot of my friends, I grew up with people in my neighborhood in Orange County that were like bands and, all these people. And we were like, what are we going to do here? And how are we going to make money? It wasn't just like, I used to have a fan club. My fan club had like, 150,000 members, and they paid every month. You could survive off of just your fan club and selling your merchandise to your own fan base. And then once they started dumping it all out there for free and bootlegging it, nobody really cared if they had the authentic Amber Lynn t-shirt or Ravenscroft t-shirt, you know, they, as long as they got a t-shirt to wear and they could buy it cheaper or not pay for it at all. So I had.
So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts? I mean,
I think that the world has turned on us. You know, my first thought was the world had turned on us as artists and we weren't able to make money anymore. And when I started the radio show, my own radio show, I had bands coming on going, hey, if I can't line up the people right after I get off stage and sell to them directly, I don't make any money. You know, because the albums are being pirated and we're all having that same problem. We've been fighting it for a long time. And this was before COVID. One of the things I think you need to do, whether you're an artist, an actor, porn star, whoever you are, if you have an image that is public, you need to trademark your image and copyright everything. It can be as little as $400 or $500, but then you have the ability to say, you can't use this without my consent. And even then you have to fight.
Right.
Okay, but at least you have some leadway. But whether it's a band, copyright your images, copyright your logos. So when people go take it, and you see it happen all the time. Right? I'm sure you face that
100%.
yourself, Ralph, right?
Yeah. Well, you're kind of, you're pretty much a legend in the industry and you've done so much. You're like, you're all over the place. You do so much work in the entertainment industry. It's not
because
just,
they had to diversify to keep, you know, to keep the fires burning, you know? It's like the bottle washer, right?
Sure. How much has this COVID-19 affected you, honestly?
Well, I think it affected me like it affected everybody. You know, the initial shock was it just shut the whole world down and sent us into our houses to stay there. Don't come out without a mask on. I don't know how that affects you, but for me personally, you know, I was born with a heart murmur and I have asthma. So what happens for me is I immediately received, like, you know, a box of masks and gloves from my doctor's office. And they said, do not get COVID because of your heart murmur. It could kill you. It doesn't matter how old you are. So you immediately get this fear, you know, like, holy shit, you know, so you can't even walk around in the world like, hey, brother, how's it going? It's good to see you. Hug. You know, all the stuff that's like, you know, that keeps us in our everyday lives just grounded, to be able to shake hands, you know, to get close enough to somebody where you can just talk to them and look in their eyes and say, hey, can't do that anymore. That's really, it makes you feel separated from the world and society.
It really is. It's a strange feeling. It's absolutely out of control.
Yeah.
It's depressing. And one of the things I've also, you know, I'm an animal lover. I love animals. I got my dog on my radio show. He was a rescue, you know, always every year trying to do, you know, something for animals. And I see that it's really affected the animal community as well.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many people abandoning their pets. They can't afford to pay their own rent, or even their car payments because there's no income. A lot of people haven't worked for months, and artists, you know, they shut down the adult industry. They shut down the mainstream acting industry. There was no bands on the road. A friend of mine owns a comedy club in Los Angeles, shut it down. You know, even now they're coming back, but slowly, where you are able to bring like 10% capacity into your club.
Yeah. And how are they going to function on 10%? Those establishments don't work that way.
That's what I was just going to say to you. How are we going to function on, first of all, truth be told, a lot of places weren't functioning on packing the house.
No way.
Right? Because a lot of people make money off of the door sales.
Facts.
They certainly get invited back with that, right? So if you don't sell the door out, then you're not going to come back. And so that's just been a struggle all, for all time with everybody. And for me too, when I do public appearances, whether it's at a gentleman's club or if I'm hosting, like on Halloween, I'll be hosting a costume party here in Las Vegas. It'll be the first time that I've been able to do an event. Vegas is opening. Okay. They've got the casinos open up here. They've been real diligent about the way they're doing it, but they are opening. So
when is your event in Vegas?
It's going to be out here in Vegas. I'm still waiting for a contract to come back, so I don't want to announce it.
Okay.
It'll be on. It's on Halloween. Halloween.
Okay.
The costume contest out here.
Well,
That's going to be a very big event.
We just want to push it for you. Get as many people. I know that the COVID thing is weird, but like you say, Vegas is opening up, so try and get as many people out there as we can.
How is it with you? How's it out there with you guys?
We're pretty much completely shut down for the most part. I mean, for the most part, you grew up in Orange County, right?
I grew up in downtown Orange. I went momentarily went to Orange High. I went to Portola Junior High. I went to Orange High for a minute, and then I got kicked out. And I got kicked out on purpose because I wanted to go to Richland with all the bad kids and all the rock and rollers. So I was right there in Chapman and Maine, Old Town Orange, and that's where I came up. That's still where my family is. Some of my family's out in Laguna now, but I'm an OC girl from, I'd say, before it was cool to be. Right?
You're into the rock scene. How'd you get into the rock scene? Was it because of OC or because of another?
How'd I get into the rock scene? Rock and roll is in your blood. You either come in, I'm from the rock scene because rock was around pretty much before metal, and then it evolved from there. And then.
Well, you like both though, right?
I'm everything. I'm into. Okay. I'm really into a lot of punk rock music and metal music. I love old school rock and roll. Who doesn't? But we, that was our outlet when we were kids. Was being from Orange County, it's a more simple, small town vibe. Certainly we weren't rich kids growing up. We were just a big pack of kids on the block who. We used to listen to music, and that was what we got to do on the weekends. My older brothers were in a car club that was really well known in Orange County. It was called the West Orange Street Rods. I don't know if you guys remember it, but it was a car club where they all drove like muscle cars and Camaros and Chevys and they would race them on the weekends. And I was the little kid's sister. And so I just really loved that. And I was a model. I was doing modeling, like even when I was a kid. I would go to down to the beach and do like bikini modeling on roller skates and all kinds of stuff.
How'd you get into that?
I wanted to be a model since I started when I was really, really young. But for me, pursuing my dream as a professional model ended when I was about 16, 17 years old. They realized that I wasn't going to grow above like 5'7", and that's the minimum to be a professional runway model. So all of a sudden at like 17, I went from being this skinny little thing to kind of curving out. It wasn't going up this way, but it was going out in other ways. And so everybody was like, well, she ain't going to be able to do professional modeling if she's not going to grow any taller. So that's when you look for your alternatives. And that's when I was saying the hot body contest came in, when we used to go to clubs and go down to the beach, and we would do the bikini contests, and you could go in and win like $500, $300.
Nice.
They were really big back then.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Right? Everybody would come down on the weekends. So I used to take a lot of purses, and so I was kind of known. My older brothers were one of my older brothers, who wound up being a very famous adult film director and actor, Buck Adams, he used to work the backstage at the Anaheim Stadium as a security guy. So whenever there was a concert, I could go to the concert for free coming through the back because my brother would let me in. So I went to everybody I ever wanted to. Alice Cooper, you know, everybody. They had everybody at the Anaheim Stadium back then. ELO, Black Sabbath. So I went, and that was kind of how my interest in the music took off.
You were dead in the heart of the 80s rock scene in LA. So
we lived like, three blocks from the Anaheim Stadium.
That's insane. Now since you were in that scene, did you have any interactions with Eddie Van Halen since we just lost him?
No, I didn't, unfortunately, but he was, you know, one of the music artists that shaped my youth.
Yeah.
And like a lot of us, I did have interactions with David Lee Roth when I was on the road in Canada dancing. I was dancing in a club in Vancouver, and I used to do this show that was just a gigolo, and I'd come out dressed in this whole like gigolo suit and then strip down out of it and wind up, you know, nude, because in Canada the clubs are nude and the gentlemen's clubs. So I'm up on stage dancing, and all of a sudden we hear somebody singing the song from the DJ booth. And I turn around and I'm like, who the fuck is interfering with my show, right? Turn around, and it's David Lee Roth, who has come into the club, and he was there. They were doing a concert, right? And I'm like, what the hell? So he's in there, and he's a big showman, so he was taking over the show. It wound up, he was like, hey, we want to, you know, bring you to our show, take you out after the show. And I said, I'll go if all the girls in the club can go. And he was like, loaded up these limos, took everybody out.
Oh my God.
He was so generous and so wonderful and just really talented and really cool guy. So that was my experience with Dave. Yeah.
That's really cool. You've probably met a lot of celebrities over the time that you've been in the business, and you've done a bunch of interviews. Who's one of your favorites?
God, you know, there's so many of them. When I was young, Steven Tyler was my idol. Okay, so wound up meeting Steven Tyler, going up. I met him in San Francisco when I was dancing at the O'Farrell Theater. Came out, and him and Sebastian Bach, they were touring. Skid Row was touring with Aerosmith. This will date me. So Skid Row is touring with Aerosmith back in the day, and they're doing San Francisco, and they wanted me to come to their show, you know, and do the whole stage thing, come out on stage and whatever, which was very popular back with Aerosmith back then, right, when they were doing like Get a Grip and Ragdoll and Angel and stuff like that. So they had me booked at the club, and they're like, no, bud, she's not leaving the club on a Friday night to come and do your show. Well, they came to our show. They came to my show. Steven came, Sebastian came. We all partied upstairs afterwards in Jim and Artie's office, had a great time with them, and then flew us up the following week. We flew up the following week to Sacramento, and I did the show up there with them. And then I got to know them. I was hanging out for a while with one of their band members, and just really, really good people. I was actually a part of a cartoon called Wise Guys and Whack Jobs. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but it's been in production for a long time. And it stars like some of the guys from The Sopranos, and Joe Perry is in it.
Oh, really?
So you have to check that out. But I played Agent Hardbody. So it's like all these bad kind of mafioso characters, and Joe Perry's in it. He's one of the characters, but they're cartoons, and we do the voices of them. And I play the federal agent who comes in to bust up the club, underground club. I come in to bust up the club, and then one of them recognizes me that hey, you know, the federal agent used to be a porn star. So it's a whole thing, but it's done on a cartoon, kind of like South Park.
Oh, okay.
Right on.
It's like
That's
a South
cool.
Park cartoon, adult cartoon, and they've been working on it for a while. So hopefully they'll get that going.
Well, that sounds exciting. That's very cool. Looking forward to seeing that.
Rockin' Sexy Uncensored. I got into the show, like I said, it started out as I had a show, an adult show. And a lot of my friends who were music artists and actors in the mainstream industry would go, God, I want to come on your show, you know, or they'd want to call in when certain people would be on the show. And sometimes their managers would say, don't go near that porno show, you know? And so they'd call in and be like, I'd have a certain guest on, like whoever, Tara Patrick or somebody like that. And all of a sudden we'd get a call in from like Bullwinkle. It's Bullwinkle. And they'd be like, we would know who it was, right? But it would be like, they'd be code word Bullwinkle or whatever. And they go, come on, bud, we want to come on the show, you know? So that's when I got the idea to do the mainstream show because of the piracy and all of that. And at first I was told there's no way you are going to get mainstream actors and rockers and porn stars in the same studio together because of the fact that they wouldn't even let them do call-ins. And I said, that is just BS, you know? Maybe that was true back in the 90s or whatever, but the world is evolved. The world was evolved. The world had evolved we had progressed into the state where people could just go, hey, okay, it's adult, it's porn. I'm not completely shocked and freaked out that there is naked genitalia in front of me.
Yeah, the world does seem to really start accepting that it is content. I mean, you know,
it's content and you can view it or not view it. It's just like music. You choose some music to listen to and others you don't, you know, or movies you watch.
Let me ask you this because I'm very curious because you know what I mean? Obviously, you were in the entertainment industry and you've done a bunch of stuff in it, not just porno. You've done modeling, you've done acting, you're an interviewer, the list goes on and on and on. What do you think about all the stuff that's going on with the Me Too movement and, I don't want to point fingers, but what do you think about what's going on right now with, some of the people that are losing their jobs basically based on the Me Too movement?
Well, some of these people have been running their game for a long time and hurting people and getting away with it. I'm all for consenting adults, whether it's music, porn, sex, dating, whatever it is. If you show up and you're consenting, there are no victims, there's only volunteers. Okay. But when somebody's out there being shady and they're doing stuff like some of the stuff that's going on now where they're roofing girls and taking them out of the back of clubs and they wake up in houses in Hollywood Hills and they're being raped.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Then that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And we all have a responsibility to stop that because it reflects on our whole community where, a place that is famous, like the Rainbow or other places are no longer safe. And we don't want that because we want to keep those doors open so that the sane people who know how to ask somebody before engaging, and are not into that kind of behavior. So yes, there are people out there in the world who possibly some of them are wrongfully accused. That's not my job to sort through that, let the courts do that. But one of the things is that usually, and I've seen this time and again, it takes so long for somebody who is running these types of bad games to get investigated and get called out on it. We've all seen them.
Right, yeah.
And just gone, hey, ooh, I'm going to stay away from that, you know. But it sucks because it brings us all down.
Yeah.
And I think we are dealing with so much now as artists that the last thing we need is some added problem. Right now, we don't even have to think about those things because all we're trying to do is be able to get out of the house and get back into a room with each other. And that's not even about like a band playing where we get to, you know, rock out in a club. We get to show up with no mask and a great outfit and like mingle and have some drinks with each other, you know. Yeah.
I gotta ask, what do you think about the whole Ron Jeremy situation? You knew I had to ask you that. So
well, okay. I've known Ron Jeremy for 35 years. All right. I feel really bad that he's facing his own demons right now. I really do. It breaks my heart to see that somebody who has had that much fame and that many blessings, you know, he's been truly blessed. This guy has been truly blessed. He's had a massive career. He's had a lot of fame, a lot of recognition, a lot more than a lot of people. You know, and sometimes you look at the guy and you go, how the fuck did he get so famous? And why does everybody think so much of him? Well, you know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of people out there like you and me who know what it's like to break your back and work your ass off and know that it's really difficult.
Right.
So let me just say this to you. I've known him for a long time. I had a very tough conversation with him about a year before this all came down. I know some of the women that are on the other side of that. I know some of them, which is all I can say right now, because you have to let the courts decide and let the process, you know, process itself through. And I had a conversation with him, and I'll tell you, you know, he never raped me. But if he tried to rape me, I would break his forearm. Because I'm that kind of girl. If somebody reached for me, there'd be a fight. Not all people are like that, you know, but I will tell you this. He has been inappropriate. He has made me feel uncomfortable and unsafe. And he has done things that have been completely out of line, to the point where I've kicked him in the shin and said, get your fucking hands off me. But that's what has stopped him, you know, calling the maitre d', whoever, you know what I mean? So I think because Ron has always seen me as a peer, you know, somebody who's as famous,
right,
and has come up with him, he has backed off, okay, or relented. But he has a problem with that, and he's always had a problem as long as I've known him. But I think some people who may not be as strong physically and, you know, will get caught up in that, and they've been hurt.
right.
I know women who have been hurt, you know, and that's not cool.
I can't imagine the boundary issue is really particularly easy in the adult entertainment industry either. I mean, you guys are pretty boundaryless on set.
The boundaries, you could call something into question on a porno.
Well, I
side.
wasn't doing that. More so, is it harder to set those boundaries because of that?
I will tell you guys something that the world doesn't really understand. Okay, in porn, the boundaries are clear. When you're on a set, you ask, everything is spelled out. It's all storyboarded, my do's, my don'ts, what I'm not comfortable with. And if something happens that is outside of the scope of those boundaries, cut.
Just
you can't
immediate.
do that in a club when somebody's roofing you.
That's true.
Okay, that's different. And so you're actually going to be safer in a situation where you're on an adult set because people are expected to act professionally. Porn is no different than any other movie that's ever being shot, unless you're on some skeevy, back alley porn set. And of course they exist like any other thing. But it's a movie that's being shot. There's boom operators, there's makeup artists, there's a director, there's a camera, there's, lights that people can trip over the cords and all that. So, nobody is like leaping across the room and trying to rape somebody. It's all very contained, controlled environment. People are like, oh my God, the porn, it must be like they're flying around the room with fire shooting out of their ass, No.
Okay, wait. If we're gonna talk about the behind the scenes real quick, I gotta ask this just real quick. Are Fluffers real or are they a myth?
Okay, so they were real back in the last time I saw a fluffer on a set was on the Grafenberg spot in San Francisco. It was shot by the Mitchell brothers. It was like the new Behind the Green Door of the day. Okay. It was me. I was in it. Ginger Lynn was in it. John Holmes was in it. All these, everybody of the day.
Right.
And they had fluffers on the set because they didn't want to mess up the makeup of the talent. If you had like come in and your whole face is all made up and you're ready to go, they want their actresses to walk on the set and be beautiful for the shots. The other thing people don't realize, I hate to burst your bubble, is when we go in and we shoot a scene, we will shoot all of the dialogue through the whole scene and all the action footage. And then once it's all shot with everybody's face and hair, right? Then they come back and they say, okay, this is what we're going to do. 5 positions, and these are the positions. And this is what we need. We need, 3 minutes of, blowjob or whatever it is. And then we're going to switch. We're going to go into doggy style. And then we're going to do the pop right here on her face or wherever. And then that's how it's done.
That makes sense though, because everybody.
This is so awesome.
No, it is though, because when you.
Shit, I'll never watch porn again.
Every time I'll be like, "No, Amber said it was fake." No,
no, it's not fake. It's
the
just
act, but
aged differently.
It's very similar to the process of. I mean, honestly, it's same as filming a fucking music video, is it not? We have to tell Ralph, "Hey, stand up there and look this way," and.
Right. You don't want, you have to sell your product. So you sell your product by having your artist, whatever it is, your talent has to look awesome. So they come in with all their makeup and hair done. And, everybody knows that once you get down to the knee, everything's smearing all over the face.
Right.
Which is not. But if you watch these porno films, especially the ones today, somebody said it right. I think it was Chris Rock. I have to give him credit for this. He made me laugh so hard, I almost peed my pants. He said, I had to quit watching porn. He goes, I used to love watching good porn. And this is how I feel. But these days, I feel more like I'm watching a crime being committed against somebody.
Honestly, I kind of agree with that shit.
Right? Where you're like, you just go, oh, God, let go of her neck.
Dude,
or whatever.
On my note, where is it? I can read it right here. I even wrote, I was going to ask you, when in your idea was the pinnacle of adult films? Because nowadays it seems more icky and less fun. It's like, let's see if we can, how much we can discuss somebody.
Why I am grateful to have started my career in the 80s. And in the 90s was cool too, but in the late 90s is when it really took off. And it changed, and it came out with Gonzo. They wanted you to actually have real orgasms and real sex. So they would quiet the set. They would leave the actors alone. They would start doing what was pre-organized as a scene. And then that's why you have great adult film actors. And that's how people become legends, okay? Because they know how to work within the boundaries of sex, because it's really difficult. If you want to really make somebody feel uncomfortable, pin them in a corner and start talking about sex, you know, and then put a camera on them, you know, because that's when it's human nature. It gets into that real vulnerable place. So what happened was, in those days, it was like, we want to see you have a real orgasm for your viewers. Now they're like, how do you have an orgasm when somebody's got you by the
legit, man?
right? They're like beating you. Or like I had this one girl on my, love her, Veronica Avlov, and she does a thing called triple anal. And I had her on my radio show, and she broke it all down on the whole show. And we were like, you're kidding. It takes like 5 days for her to get ready.
Wait, is it exactly what it sounds like?
It's exactly what it sounds like.
And with all due respect, how do you walk after something like that?
How do you get 3 people in a position on one tiny little girl to be able to even do something like that?
Yeah.
And I was like so freaked out. And you know what? And okay, so, and I'm not going to say anything. That simply, the thought of it does not turn me on. It doesn't do anything for me. You know, I'm not like.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Yeah. And then I'm concerned the whole time that, especially if I know the person, like, and she's only 5'2", a tiny little thing about this big. And you're like, I'm concerned that the person's being hurt. So I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's not cool for me. So I think that started in probably, you know, maybe 2000, around that era. And it's kind of progressed. And I'll tell you what, that was why I backed off on shooting scenes, and I started doing other things, options to be able to stay in touch with my fans, like webcamming, because I shot 500 movies, and I shot all those movies not at the fan. I shot them for the fans, but you shot them for the camera.
Right.
Now that they have other avenues available to continue to maintain your personal relationships with your fans, you know, webcamming, OnlyFans, all these, you know, these other places, AVN Stars, where they provide these platforms where the fans get to go in and have, you know, this personal interaction with you. And once I got into that, I was like, why bother, you know? And then as I've been doing more and more mainstream stuff, I realized that, you know, sometimes we have a responsibility to really stop and think about what we're putting out for the public. And I don't want to sell the idea that I'm okay with being abused in the middle of a scene for the sake of hot porn. If I don't agree with it, I'm going to tell you I don't agree with it. And a lot of people, that's why I have a reputation as a cunt. Because that's how I am, you know, I'm for real. Whatever you see, what you see is what you get. And so that's kind of my opinion with the adult business, but there are good companies who are still shooting some good product, but like everybody else, we were all shut down in COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to believe in that sense now, thank God for the internet, because of COVID, you guys would have we all would have been screwed, but with the internet and the ability to break down that fourth wall, it does help in that sense, I guess. Did the internet really screw you guys over as much as it did music?
Oh my God. It destroyed the adult industry.
Really?
What it did was it took, and I know it did this for a lot of music artists as well, because I got more and more music artists to come on my radio show, because when they were putting out an album, they'd say, you know, I'll put this out on, you know, iTunes or whatever, and they're going to steal it. You know, what's the point of pressing LPs if they're going to be pirating it all over the internet? People just be downloading my songs. You know, the reason why is because you get to go on these live appearances. Now that they have shut bands and music artists down from doing live appearances, and that it was the same thing for me. I was doing gentlemen's clubs, appearances in gentlemen's clubs. So I'd go and dance and do my show, and the fans would all come in. And after the show, I would sell Polaroids and, you know, all my magazines, and I would autograph them. And, you know, that merch thing is what kind of keeps us going. It's what pays the touring costs and all this other stuff. And so now we're not able to do that. And in COVID, I don't know how they're ever going to do it again.
Yeah, that's my concern too with music at the same time. How are we going to go back to getting to rush the stage and having monster mosh pits? How is it going to come back? I hope there's an answer, but it's kind of scary.
It's like, I just see, and I hope it's not true. I'm still hoping that we're going to be those people who are going, I remember when we used to walk knee deep in the snow. You get to the whiskey and mosh in the pit. We were like this, and people were going, really?
You touched each other? What about social distancing?
Oh my God, right?
It's crazy.
The whiskey's not open.
Nope.
Oh, I know.
The rainbow is open, but you have to be like 10 feet apart, Yeah.
Let me ask you something before we go, because I know we're coming close to the end of the interview here, but I wanted to get some stuff from you, personal stuff. I know you're an animal activist. How did you get into that? What was the passion behind that? Because my wife loves you because she thinks you're like super
I know,
awesome.
and I love her too because
she loves animals and she thinks you're awesome. So tell me how you got into that.
And my story is when I was really small, I had this connection to animals, and my mom had a cat. Her name was Lulabelle. And that was our first animal. But I've always had this thing with animals and small children where I don't know what it is, but they connect to me. And even all my friends, like I was just down in LA, and my friend's dog, I was, staying in her place because she wanted me to be safe and not be out in hotels in COVID. And her dog was sleeping right on top of my legs. And she's like, he doesn't even like other people. And he would not leave my side the whole time. I think maybe I was an animal in a former life, but I've been that way ever since I was a kid. And I've always been somebody who would go out into the yard and bring back, the frog that had, hurt itself and keep it in a box and nurture it. And so I've always been that way. And the more that I have grown up, the more I've learned about the plight of animals and all the suffering that they have in the world, and such unnecessary cruelty that you see people do that's like, forget about the stuff that's put out on social media, which is just so wrong, that people go out to just get attention, to harm these innocent creatures. And for me, I just, something in me clicks, and I just feel like it's our responsibility to stop it when we see it, and to do something to offset all of that negativity and cruelty that's being pointed at these innocent creatures by trying to, open a path of betterment for them. Yeah. And when I did my own radio show, I wanted to do things that helped everybody that was a part of my show. Artists that come on my show, we have the blog so that they can sell their stuff in perpetuity, get their work out there, their music, their albums. My dog, I got my dog, Tiny Busto, the drummer from TSOL, the former drummer, came on with Mr. Mighty, and him and Krista Allen, the actress from Baywatch, were like, here, we got this little dog. And I was like, oh my God. And they're like, okay, well, who's going to take the dog? And then the minute I saw him, Mr. Mighty was this big. I was like, oh, but I have to become this dog's mom. And so this little guy, oh boy. Say hi. This is Mr. Mighty.
Oh my gosh. I
That's
love
my
that beard,
little
holy Lord.
Mr. Mighty.
It's not. Right? And I gotta tell you guys,
He's like, I didn't do my face for my camera.
he's like, I should have brushed my mustache, right? But here's the thing, this little guy has saved my life. Honestly, in COVID and everything, just to have him, and so I just really feel blessed when I'm around animals. I always say they're like my tribe. And and I've changed so much, like, because of knowing animals and walking this path with them. I just naturally, and it didn't have to be anything once I saw that, I stopped wearing fur. I gave up all my fur coats. I mean, when I was younger in the 80s, I was like, Miss Fur Coat. And then I gave up all my furs to give them to be sold to help animals. And then I just stopped eating meat naturally, because once you see how they torture animals to get certain things, you just can't do it anymore, So it's just been kind of like I've evolved.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I agree with you. My wife is the same way, and she gets on me all the time.
Well, I never understood.
I love animals, but
and I think, and it's not just women, but I do say, because with women we have a maternal instinct, so we automatically start like mothering, and when you all you have to do is turn on social media and see what they're putting out there, and you just can't. I don't know what we're human beings today. No. Some of them are just.
It's pretty brutal. Some of it, isn't it?
It's pure cruelty. It doesn't make any sense. It really
doesn't. No absolute reason, and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah. So.
Some people will do anything for money. That's for sure.
They don't even have to do it for money. Sometimes they'll just do it for attention.
Yeah, that's true too. So let me ask you that, if you don't mind, and you can pass on this one if you want, but I'm curious, what's your stance on the politics of today, of the current stance of politics today? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm from California, and at this point, I will be there on November 3rd to cast my vote. I will be voting for Biden-Harris. I won't be voting for Trump. And it's not because, I'm a Democrat, but, I've been through a lot with both parties. And if I thought that Trump was actually doing his job, a good job, in my opinion, then I could see, considering that.
Well, you're from Orange County, so there's a lot of Republicans out there, right?
I'm from Las Vegas now, and there's a lot of Republicans in Vegas. And and I don't think, to be honest with you personally, I don't think that Biden is the total answer.
Right.
No, Biden kind of scares me too. This whole election scares me for that reason.
I gotta be honest with you. I wish we could scrap this whole cabinet and get some younger people.
Agreed.
Into, and I think that in the future we have to. I mean, we have to be focused on bringing the young people into it, because, the world they don't identify with the youth of today. I mean, it's hard for me, and I'm pretty hip. You identify with the younger generations, the nieces and the nephews and stuff, because it really has changed that much. But to think about, when I look at Trump and I look at Biden, I see grandpa, great grandpa, and I go, what the hell? And you think to yourself, at 70 and 80 years old, is their brain completely stable? When the more I watch people talking these debates, I'm like, what?
Well, and I have a theory that also, and this is going to kind of sound really philosophical and weird, but just go with me on this. I have a theory that we're kind of witnessing the death throes of the old ways. When you look at the way Trump and Biden and all of them are conducting themselves in front of the camera, it's almost like they don't know we have the internet that can fact check the shit they're saying. And so they're just like, this is the way it happens. And we look at our phones and go, dude, you're full of shit. What are you talking about? And then they just keep going. So it's like they don't even want to acknowledge what they're doing is bullshit.
Well, how about this though, Cody? How about the fact that, because they're at the age that they are, their brain isn't capacitated anymore to think that fast and that clear.
That's
it's
true.
Like having a really, really old computer.
Yeah.
Okay. After so many years, your computer, it could be the best computer on the market or whatever, but after so many years, it just doesn't have the ability to run that fast anymore.
That's
and when
true.
I look at them sometimes and some of the stuff that comes out of their mouth, both of them.
Yeah. No, 100%. That's what scares me.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point, Andy.
So I would like to see us bring in some new politicians and some new fresh blood, I think we're not going to have a choice because, they're going to be dead eventually.
That's what.
Too far away at 70 and 80. How much more time does anybody got? Even if they live to be 90 and 100 years old, that's just around the corner.
Shouldn't it bother us that we're actually there are people who are legitimately going, well, it is more likely we're talking about electing Kamala because Biden ain't gonna, let's be real, Biden ain't gonna make it. They're actually saying shit like that.
Well, both sides.
Yeah,
so
and you're like, okay, well then shouldn't we find some other guys then?
You're talking about electing Pence because, look what Trump's out there.
Yeah.
He's like, COVID, what?
I don't know what the big deal is.
Buddy, you're the fucking president.
Yeah.
Get in the hospital.
Act like it.
Okay? I don't care. Right now, you're the fucking president and you need to take care of your health, not be out there dancing around, hey, COVID, what? Fuck you. Right?
Yeah, I wish I could remember who it was. I'm pretty sure it was a comedian, but Trump tweeted something about California's on fire. It's a living hell. New York's terrible. Vote Trump. And their response was, you're talking like you haven't been president for the last 4 years. It seems like both sides say these just one-liners, and it's like, dude, you're talking about yourself. You're the one who fucked that up. Being
a Californian, I want to see Trump out. Mm-hmm. He hates California.
Oh, hardcore. Yeah.
And him in office is going to just be the end of California. When they talked about California breaking off into the ocean, it's probably because it's going to be killed off.
Yeah.
It's just going to burn down so many times that the economy, we need to get somebody in who doesn't have all these pre-existing resentments and all this, division and go, okay, guys, we have to find a basis to start somewhere to work together to the middle. It doesn't matter. Otherwise, our society as we know it is over. It's over. It's just a matter of time. And, every day it's a new thing.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's both sides. Like you said, it's both sides.
We absolutely have to come together and find some kind of a balance. I agree with you 100%.
It used to be music. And, and music used to be so much. It's such a big part of healing and communicating and feeling our, working through the emotions and the feelings of, and especially in times of war or politics and stuff, that's when some of the greatest music was created. Yeah. And we don't have the ability to do that right now. They've taken all of those things away.
Yeah, we just have to sit home and shut up at the moment, huh? It's fucking terrible.
Not as long as we have Zoom, though.
That's true. No, I know, right? Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Amber Lynn. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amber.
For showing up.
My honor and privilege.
Yes, it was amazing having you. It was a great conversation. Let the fans know where they can find out more about you.
Well, you can listen to my radio show on Thursday nights at my direct link on our blog, which is rockandsexyuncensored.com. You can always Google me and find out anything about me. It's not always true, but you can find out what my links are. You can follow me on Twitter at XXXAmberLens, and everywhere else is usually Real Amber Lynn. Like Facebook is Real Amber Lynn, whatever. But you can always follow Rockin' Sexy You as well. And I'm pretty easy to find.
We'll leave some links on here on this video.
Yep.
On the, and so, yeah, but it was great having you on, Amber. So much. Thank you so much for doing it. I appreciate it so much.
All right, everybody.
Have a good one.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Bye.
Thank you, Amber.
Take care, Amber.
Bye.